Welcome to the Serious TV Drama Podcast. I'm Scott, and joining me once again, someone who'd never consider setting up an OnlyFans account for her feet, but she might just consider her elbows if you ask her really nice. It's Jamie. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, doppelgangers be damned. You get the original Jamie today.
Oh, no, I'm not getting the doppelganger, Jamie. Darn it. But the barrette's on the other side of your head.
No Dutch guitar playing street musician Jamie for you.
Ah, boo. Alrighty then. Well, we are back to discuss the 12th episode of this apparently final season of Evil, and this one was titled Fear of the Other. And I wanted to be careful when I said that, because I realized well after the fact, when I referred to last week's episode, well, apparently I referred to it several times during the episode Fear for the Future, instead of the correct title, Fear of the Future. I guess I was just trying to be more alliterative with the title. I don't know. Hey, I made a worse mistake in my solo podcast that I did covering Batman Caped Crusader, when I made a specific mention how there's really no mention of the race change for Commissioner Gordon and his daughter Barbara, but actually it is actually referenced a couple times in the series. So I was just straight up factually wrong. That guy who said I got things wrong in that Happy Valley podcast from like 18,000 years ago. He's wrong about that, but he's right. He'd be right about this one. No, it's a great podcast. It's like 99% good otherwise. Go check it out, Bat fans. Anyway, we're here to talk about Evil. So I started off rambling. The cats are already fighting with each other on my bed, while there's another pair of cats fighting in the yard. So there's cat fights happening everywhere in this house, outside this house. It's a crazy place. So let's get to the episode, which rolled the opening credits about 14 minutes and change into the episode, and we were treated to the sort of material one would miss if we skipped the intro. This time we got a knock-knock joke. Instead of an interrupting cow, as I normally know the joke being told, it was an interrupting ghost. So I was like, oh, go. The ghost works instead of moo, it's a boo. I like that. But as far as openings are concerned, and Jamie, you alerted me to this before I had even watched the episode, they definitely had a little fun with the opening of this one. And you know that before we even cut out of black, when you see that the CBS Studio Productions credit was upside down, and then we're treated to like kind of like a slowly spinning camera that rotates as we're looking down a hallway, that's maybe more than a teensy bit, little weeny bit reminiscent of The Shining. And yeah, it's obviously a totally different pattern on the carpeting and so on. Yeah, I know. But the shot is really meant to evoke that film more than anything else. You know, I mean, they didn't do the rotating camera in that, but, you know, Kubrick was known for doing rotating camera tricks, you know, all throughout 2001, quite frankly, but that's not what they did here. Anyway, back to the scene. But what I liked was, other than the inventiveness of the shot, we see pretty quickly that Sister Andrea is at one end of the hall. And it was hard for me not to immediately say, yay, Sister Andrea is going to play a significant part in this one. And then I had an instant wave of dread. Oh no, this is the first of the last 3 episodes. I don't know if she's going to make it to the next 2. So I'll be honest. I spent at least part of the episode worrying about that she was playing such a major part in this episode. You know, it's like Cheryl part 2. It's like, oh no. Don't kill Sister Andrea. You know, I might love her more than Ben. I think I do.
There's been a couple of times this season where I'm just like, oh my God, are they going to do it? Please don't do it. It's the final season. Like you said, we're wrapping the story up like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do to her? You know what? Maybe she'll just be fine. She's pretty tough.
Well, it's funny because in many ways, she's kind of the toughest one on the show and in this cast and in this episode. Although she does have her moments of emotion and I wouldn't say weakness exactly, just finally showing that side of her and the fact that she is kind of tortured by a certain level of guilt about things and about specifically about that relationship that led to that man ultimately killing himself. So yeah, we're gonna jump around a little bit here because beyond being the antepenultimate episode of this series, yes, that's a word. This was likely to be the final assigned case that the what I call the over the hill Scooby Squad of assessors here that they're ever likely to tackle. And I gotta say, I kind of thought this was a good one. It's a good case. They gave us another solid guest actor. It's Nate Cordry. Some
Yeah.
some of the more well versed in TV folks out there, you'll know him from For All Mankind. Others actually might remember him from significant roles in the first seasons of both Perry Mason and Mindhunter, two shows
Yep.
that got talked about extensively on this podcast. You might even remember him from a few one-offs in other STVD approved series like The Marvelous Ms. Maisel or Lock and Key. So in this, it turns out he's the son of the man who, well, was Sister Andrea, was the love of the life of Sister Andrea. And he believes that his doppelganger, and there's nothing I love more than the word doppelganger because it takes me back to Twin Peaks. And by the way, every once in a while there's a little Twin Peaksian feeling in this episode as well. I was kind of getting that gist, especially
Yep.
especially in a certain scene with Sister Andrea that we'll get to a little later, which left me initially confused, and then I went, oh, I get it. Okay, it just took a minute for it to click. But yeah, his doppelganger, who apparently recently killed himself on a vlog or a TikTok video or something, I guess it was never taken down, even though, wait, aren't those things always taken down when something horrific like that happens? He believes that doppelganger is now possessing him. And we are later reminded that the love of her life, his dad, well, he also killed himself way back when. So obviously, we see why this is going to be a very Sister Andrea centric episode because she's the one who essentially assigns the case when they're looking at all the stacks of cases. What are we going to do? And she plays a major role. She keeps showing up there. Um, I really adored that. To me, I consider her almost like an honorary member of the squad now, even though it's too late. And her interactions with Kristen in particular, I just really find fascinating because there's this snideness that Kristen will express, off to the
Oh,
side
yeah.
about her, just memories of Catholic school and whatever. And then, and what's interesting here is I know I usually come down a bit on Kristen for her always going the pragmatic, blah, 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 psychoanalytical perspective. Although the counter does like, well, that's what she's supposed to do. That's why she's there. That's what she is. That's what she's supposed to do. And I was actually kind of, even though I know this show is a TV show, it's evil, and we know there's going to be a demon in it anyway, as we're going to see
Right.
pretty shortly. But I actually agreed with everything Kristen was kind of saying. My only issue with what Kristen was saying, and it wasn't a big issue, it was just like, it's like, should you be saying this directly to her in such a way, which sounds like you're
Yeah.
kind of crapping on her faith and her belief system, when she drops the word placebo on her and everything. And I thought in that moment, the look on Sister Andrea's face reminds me of my look when I'm looking at the screen and I'm kind of was getting fed up with Kristen at
Well,
certain times.
and she doesn't call her Kristen. There's been plenty of times they've had conversations or she said her name and she doesn't refer to her as Kristen. She looks her dead in the eye and calls her Dr. Bouchard.
Mhm.
Like just the way it's like she was calling out not Kristen, but calling out that part of Kristen. And that's something that's so interesting about Sister Andrea is she's sh- she's always going to say it how she sees it, but it's like she sees it better than anyone else in the room. And you're talking about how she's sort of an honorary member of their little trio, but she's like the muscle. She really is. She's the muscle. She's the one that's killing demons and doing the hunting and, you know, but there's literally nothing about her that questions. Her faith is so pure that she has the strength to do that because even David will waver back and forth. But she's as determined, and I think her faith is even stronger than what uh Kristen's is in the science of psychology.
Well, what's interesting, it's interesting you point that out because I would say that is how we've been presented her the entire time we've seen Sister Andrea
Right.
until this episode.
Yes.
It's also interesting that you've had a running thing throughout this series where you have, and this is specific to consistent, recurring characters, etc. David and the and Father Ignatius before he left. You had both of them expressing their times of doubts in their faith,
Hmm.
in God, whatever, and for the reasons that one would imagine, you question a God that allows certain horrible things to
Right.
happen while horrible people seem to benefit, and so on and so forth. And yeah, the cats are trying to break through the wooden blinds to check out the cats fighting in the backyard. It's fascinating.
They're getting the
Uh,
popcorn ready.
um, and in this episode, you have that scene later in the episode where, and again, got a little worried because I remember last time someone went and had a conversation with David in the confessional. It's like, oh, she didn't have too much longer to live after that, did she? So when Sister Andrea is also going to the confessional, and that's where she kind of finally, breaks down
Yep.
about her guilt over, she felt that her abandoning this man led him to abandon God, and and now he's killed himself and he's in hell, whatever. And despite Dave, and I also like the fact that it's a very different kind of conversation because David knows who he's talking to from the get go, so he speaks in very priestly, biblical kind of
Yep.
a manner to her the entire time, as opposed to like the way he spoke with Cheryl, for example. Um, but she also expresses her doubts. Um, and it's a great little scene for her. We don't usually get to see that side of her, and it's understandable here. I kind of want to see. I almost wanted a flashback to see. I want them like to have a younger a younger sister Andrea, pre sisterhood kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, not that they needed it. I just was part of me was like, oh, I wouldn't mind that. Like,
Perhaps if we would have had the other season, we may have been able to stretch this story a little bit.
well, they didn't have the money because they were busy trying to sell the rights to this TV series to Congo Run or something. Um,
Another note that I have here about Andrea, we haven't talked about, but this episode specifically made me remember that I wanted to talk about this. And an interesting thing that they do with Andrea is kind of tear down the patriarchy of the Catholic Church because she's always involved in these exorcisms. And if it's a lot of work goes into getting an exorcism approved. It's not like just any priest can go, oh, this person needs and that's that. There's usually a committee, there's people on board that make the decision. There's very specific priests that are trained to do exorcisms. Not every priest can do it. But and the clergy doesn't have a female head. So the fact that she is involved in all of these exorcisms that we've seen, but she's also the one who's actually exorcising the demons. It's not the priest that's there with them. She's either stabbing him with her lawn clipper, the one that couldn't get through the door. She's holding his hand in this episode. She's pulling that out of him. She's always the one who's doing this. So she truly is like a demon hunter in her own right. But I love how they're always showing this very male dominated practice, and she's the one who's always actually fixing this problem. But they never just say, a woman's got to do a man's job. I mean, they don't ever go into that cliche. It's always there for you to see. Now with Cheryl, we got a little bit more of the cheeky glass ceiling and so on, but it's just something that's brought up a lot, as part of the story without being like talked about. And I don't know. I think that's really kind of cool that we don't have to point it out to see it.
right, right. So I feel like throughout the episode, a lot of the most interesting moments and key moments do involve Sister Andrea. Whether it be the first time we see, I believe it's the first time we see Paul Jr. going through his kind of sleepwalking trance where he's supposedly possessed by his doppelganger Gregory. And there's that moment when he leaves the room and he walks down the hallway, and then you kind of see you see his body fall away from his other body,
Yeah.
and it's a very hard way to describe. It's a very difficult thing to actually describe. It's actually I'd actually like to see the script and how they described it on the page because I was in my notes. I was trying. How do I write? I don't even know how to write this, much less say it. Anyway, um, and that's when, the team runs to the person that's fallen, who is, Paul. And I realized, oh, I'm assuming we're playing with the demon idea, and the rest of them don't see the other person. Only Sister Andrea does. And then she has that moment down the hallway where, he reveals a toothy grin, a toothy grin indeed. He went, Cheshire Cat style, but much more pointy.
Yeah, and
Um,
how much would it suck to be possessed by someone named Gregory? You
uh,
know, like, oh, you were possessed by who? Ah, Gregory. I mean, eh.
That might have been the Roach guy.
Well,
Um,
he certainly had some issues.
maybe that's by, Gregory Harrison from the old Trapper John TV show. I don't know. It's like, wow, well, there's a callback. Was he the one who lived in the trailer anyway, but this is going to be like two listeners who will get that reference. And was like, man, you are older than we thought. Um, but the other key things were, well, there's so many, and one we'll leave to the end because it belongs at the end of the podcast. Um, the one that was confusing at first and then it just took me a moment for it to click and realize what they had done. It's the one the scene when David basically tells her that she should go home, get some sleep because she's exhausted and you're not going to be any good to us if you're exhausted, whatever. And that's when she starts to walk down the hall and she goes into that room and she sees the man who's basically the person who committed suicide, Paul Sr. Um, and that's when it finally occurred to me. Oh yeah, that's right. They were together when they were younger. He killed himself much later. He had always been pining after her. That's why.
Right.
Because I was going, oh, I got the impression he was much younger. It's like, no, no, no. He didn't kill himself back then. He killed himself years later because he could never have gotten over her, which becomes even more clear during the exorcism later on. Um, I love the little bit of business where she finds the little scrap of his head on
Yes, I'm so glad you.
scalp on the floor. And what was so great about it is that when he tries to stick it back on and it doesn't quite perfectly align by any stretch of the imagination. So it's a little bit the hairline thing, it's all off. I kind of like that. But where this goes, and this is to me, there was almost a slight, very slight, very slight, very slight whiff of David Lynchian stuff at work here. When she's led into the adjoining room. And I love the moment and, just the creepy, and they do that a couple times in this episode. They play with a creepy moment where you don't know who someone is from behind and you're waiting for them to turn. And they've
Yes.
played with that they did it with the episode just a couple, when it's revealed to be, George the Demon, whatever.
Mhm.
And they do it in this episode with Kristen in another scene. But this moment when Sister Andrea walks in and she sees someone kneeling in the floor, and you can kind of sort of tell already it looks like the person's wearing like a real deal, old school, full nun's habit. And then it's revealed to be her. And then it says in the dream, excuse me, I just kind of ruined it there. But then it's almost as though they've switched places because it's the person who's in the corner who says, "Die, you foul demon," whatever. And she's got the traditional Sister Andrea weapon, the shovel. Sister Andrea and her shovels, whatever. And, she swings at it with a big thwack, and cuts immediately to black. And I went, but wait a minute. And when it first happened, I'm like, wait a minute. But she wasn't the one in the corner. She was the one who
Yeah.
walked in, whatever. And then, so I was watching and I was thinking about it, and I said, you know what? None of that just happened. The last thing we heard was David telling her, go home. You're tired, you're exhausted, whatever.
Yep.
This was all just in her head, a dream. Just like Kristen has a dream that features a double of herself.
Yep. They're
Um,
all facing their doppelgangers.
exactly. Because the next scene we have with Sister Andrea in the episode is that confessional moment. So that I was like, wait, did they just get away with something really weird in this episode? And I realized, no, what they got away with is, okay, we're not going to see like Sister Andrea, in her room at the church and sleeping, whatever. And so it's all kind of telegraphed for us, like, oh, she's about to have a dream and it's going to be like, no, we're going to, and also that's very Shining like, it's like,
Oh,
wait,
yeah.
is this really happening or isn't? Except in The Shining, I think it all is happening. Um, and then it's the scene that kind of got me, and again, maybe I'm a little bit more on fragile eggshells this week emotionally because of life. But you had mentioned before that, particularly when it comes to dealing with demons and exorcism specifically, that it's appeared that at least on one, if not multiple occasions, Sister Andrea is doing like the the real battling hard work,
Right.
the stabbing and and the this and the that, whatever. Um, so I thought it was fascinating that in this exorcism, which the actual exorcism itself is in a lot of ways played more low key than we've tended to see them. They didn't try to overdo anything with any kind of special effects or even, go over the board with any sort of demonic voices of any kind or anything like that whatsoever. Um, which almost made it feel like a more believable version of what they would probably normally be dealing with.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But it's her moment. But then she's basically, as Paul Jr. is going through this, and he's talking directly to her, and especially when he goes into speaking as though he's a child again, whatever. I gotta say, I could, and this is how you know it's good. When, you get good guest actors who appear even if it's just one episode. I'll put it this way: I thought it was very effective. More so than you usually get when someone's just appearing one time in an episode. Why did you leave me? That whole bit, that,
Yeah.
and what I thought was interesting, instead of her being the aggressor and fighting a demon, she's being the consoler and she's kind of being, it's almost like the opposite of what you would normally be doing
Yeah,
in these
it's the
situations. And I thought
I
that was
mean,
an interesting tack to take here.
yeah, it's instead, like you said, instead of being the aggressor, it was like exercised with love and softness. Like forgiveness. I guess that's what it is. It was forgiveness.
Right. And why that works so well is because you have the part where we've talked about people and they're questioning their faith, and forget religion. It's just faith in general, faith in
Yeah.
humanity, faith in people, you know, just, and being able to forgive is such a huge part of that. And she has to forgive herself, which is what David was essentially trying to get her to do. And she's trying to have, and in turn, she's trying to have that moment here with Paul Jr., because one could even say that, there's some of that at work here with the son, the sins
Yep.
of the father, etc. Um, yeah, I thought it was very affecting. Um,
I there's something very there's just something so not I don't know what the right word is. It's not comforting, but there's something there where it's Andrea said in her in her confession that he's in hell because of me. But she did whatever she needed to do to make sure that his son didn't end up there too.
right, right. Because even if she's going to continue to blame herself, regardless of, no matter how many acts of contrition or Hail Mary she has to do and say. Um, there is with faith and religion and belief systems like this, there's always redemption as well. And if she takes responsibility, though, however incorrect she may actually be for what happened to his father, she can at least save the son. Um, I don't know how the son's life is going to go after this, considering that conversation we saw that he had with his wife and I don't think she's going to be like, "Oh, you're okay now."
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah.
What was that about smearing our kids' organs on
I feel
the?
like that's a tough road to,
Yeah, he's
go back down.
yeah, he's it's like, hey, good luck, Paul.
That's that's sort of a deal breaker,
maybe
rightfully so.
maybe you should go hang out with the other doppelganger that she found for you, because apparently everybody's got doppelgangers,
Nothing's
and
gonna break that
and
guy's spirit either, man. Like
and they are like spit. Everybody's got a doppelganger
spitting
that's a
imp,
spitting twin. You're like, wow, that's
they are.
amazing.
They are their exact match.
I didn't know this was actually possible, but apparently, according to it's just like, hey, I didn't know there was such a website like this, but apparently, they come up with all these
I really love
craziness.
the message too that and when Andrea's talking with Kristen and she said it's the moment that they all deserve forgiveness because the moment that their life expires, they realize they've made a mistake.
At the moment. Yeah, well, and what's actually it's
Yeah, how
the
did
word.
she say it?
No, you actually you had almost right, and I just but it the one word you got wrong is the one word that stuck out to me.
Yeah,
It's
what is it?
the moment of extinction.
Extinction. There you go.
Because the fact is, like, extinction is such an interesting word to choose there.
Right.
You could have just said, death.
Yeah, or died or
And
yeah.
then extinction. That's wow. Um, yeah, I mean, look, like we said, a really strong and great episode for the Sister Andrea character, for Andrea Martin altogether, because she has a lot of really strong moments in this. Um, even even the moment, like, I love when David overhears and the elevator keeps opening and closing.
With the creepy weird doll hand. What was that?
But it was her hand.
But it was so tiny.
Well, she's little, Okay.
Like
Hey,
just sticks out.
we
Boom,
can't
and
all we
back in.
can't all be giants with man hands like you, Jamie.
Listen, I can't help that I'm 7'4".
I
I was
know.
born this way.
I mean, Caitlin Clark looks up to you. My gosh. Um, but just the fact that because she's such a together with it character in some ways more so than anyone else, but she can still have just an oddball moment, like whatever this bag of treats is. I don't know if they're just mints or marshmallows or something. There's sweets of some kind, but apparently the bag burst open in the elevator. And I love because, the hotel's not going to like this. It's like,
Uh,
you know, you think the hotel doesn't know about all the other shit that's going on around there? You mean, if it's a hotel, there's cameras. There's cameras. Why does no one ever, all these shows I watch and people forget there's cameras everywhere. I watched it was like that Dark Matter show that we both watched, and everyone kept going to the storage facility over and over and doing all this stuff. It's like every storage facility in America has cameras in it. That
Facts.
There's a guy up front. That's literally the only thing he's doing if he's there overnight, is watching those cameras. Anyway.
Yep.
Anyhow. So I want to bounce around a bit here. Do we want to go to the big thing, or do we want to? Jamie, I'll let you
Let's
make up my
go.
mind. You want to go to the, because if we go somewhere really separate from the story, we're gonna spend the rest of a lot of time there because there's a lot I want to go into there. Or do we want to knock off all the little things with these guys connected to this case?
I kind of wanted to
Because
work into the courtroom if that's
okay,
we can because I mean we did get Andrea marching her ass right in there and
we did. We did.
putting fingers in faces and I seeing you.
Okay. I was leaving it to you. I said before we started recording, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna throw it to you a couple times, and I'll just let you tell me where you want to go, and then we'll get there. Okay. So you want to go to the courtroom? All right. So we'll go to the courtroom. So the first time we're in the courtroom in this episode, that would be when Doc
Dr. Boggs
Kristen
take.
is already there, and Dr. Boggs takes to stand, much to Kristen's irritation, and one of her few f bombs she drops in this episode. So Boggs is on the stand, and there's a lot of fun in this during the courtroom scenes with eyes catching with Leland and someone else. In this moment, it's when Leland has the little not so subtle realization that Boggs is hesitant because Kristen's right there, and maybe he's gonna not do what he had promised he was gonna do. And there's a little kind of little nod to his lawyer, Mr. Stick, who then I guess, puts on his, hey, look what I actually am, the horrific demon thing. And then Boggs starts to do what he's supposed to, which basically paint Leland as this person suffering from multiple disorders and
Yeah.
da, 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 da. And as Kristen is leaving in a huff, I think he kind of, but however, and although Stick wants him to stop, the judge wants him to go on, and Boggs actually says his conditions are so severe that he feels that he should be locked away in a maximum security, psychiatric facility for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he's a considerable threat.
And I believe it's at that moment where we have Leland go, just basically kind of say, so he's dead. And
I was like, I have a big circle around that because that's right there what Emerson's like gold is.
Yeah.
Those little like, well, he's dead. It was just so.
It was
Yep.
it was just
Great.
the way he said it, like, so he's dead, and it was just so plaintive. So you have that great little moment there, and I really have, and we've said it before, I've really been enjoying the Bog stuff, on the show. I mean, his obsession with the book stuff was kind of fun a season before, but he's kind of he's playing, he's got a small role, but he's playing it well he's getting these really nice little moments to shine on the series. It is unfortunate that if Leland said he's going to be dead, I got a bad feeling he's actually going to be dead, but we'll see.
Yeah. I really love how much courage this character ended up with, because he almost, throughout the seasons, he was right on the verge of almost being slimy.
Right.
He was always almost there.
Mm-hmm.
But you watch him like see the reality of demons, a couple episodes ago, that having to really stick with him. And then he's sitting there he's been threatened. Leland basically laid it out for him in the prison. And then he's in that courtroom and he sees this really, really terrifying demon. But he still musters up the courage. He still does it.
That alone is impressive, that despite that happening, he's still able to do that. And it would be hard not to think that he might be costing himself his life here. He might be going to that extent here. But we shall see. Well, and we'll talk a bit more about Boggs a little later on, because we're going to stay in court here. Because when Leland takes to stand, the fun. it's the picture he paints of Cheryl, of the, explaining how he's a doctor.
Yeah, it's just giving him fluid. It's fine.
And how I guess Cheryl is essentially a vampire taking the blood from his patients, and some. He's
really just selling Boggs's, statement. He really is.
This is true. I mean, and I realized that as he's talking, it's like, okay, perhaps he wants to present himself a little bit loopier. I was like, I'm trying to figure out where he's going with this, but it's just so much fun.
Their deaths came at, what has he said? It was such a tragedy. Like, he was so upset.
No, it's Emerson. So and we thought, oh, that's going to be the best thing we're going to see on the stand in this episode. No, best thing we're getting on the stand is Kristen taking the stand. This, for me, is probably one of the shining moments, however short-lived it turned out to be for Kristen on this series. When she starts pulling up
Oh
file
yeah.
after file after photo, it's like, because every time Stick was questioning something, she's like, nope, right here, right. And I loved the idea that Stick was insisting this woman is clearly hinged and hysterical. He's like, I don't think she's the one who's unhinged and
Yeah,
hysterical.
I just love it because everything he started, oh, well, here's the documentation and here's a photo and here's a court order and here's a restraining order. It
That
was like, I forgot he's done all of this shit, honestly.
and here's the thing: if that had been all she did on the stand, it's a great moment for her. I loved her just countering everything with the restraining orders and the proof of the photo with him and Lexus, and the fact that the testimony of other children who said that he, basically calling him a pedophile in an open
Yep,
court, which is kind of amazing. But that's not what's great. If that's good, it's her talking about her mother.
mom. Yep.
It's her talking about her mother. And there's
She's
that
loving.
there's that moment. Remember what I said before about the looks with Leland. There's the moment where she kind of, it's almost it's almost a cartoon like thing, because if anyone's watching, like, when they've caught it, but who cares? It was so good when she kind of gives she right when she's starting to get, quote unquote emotional, but before she goes full into it, and you see her looking right at Leland, and Leland's face kind of going, "Oh, you." And then she just, but how you ruined the legacy of this sweet and wonderful. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And it might have been the first time, and they tricked me, and I should have known better. I should have known better, because whenever things look like, oh, they're going a certain way, of course they got to go the other way.
Uh-huh.
Because
Especially if Leland's involved.
especially, in particular, we should have known it just from a couple episodes. It looked like Cheryl had the upper hand, upper hand, upper hand. Nope.
Nope.
And here, one thing after the other, Boggs going back on what he had to do, and then Kristen pretty much making mincemeat out of him here. It's like, and now they're bringing in the biological mother. They're bringing in Leslie. And even Leland reacts like, oh, they've made her flip. And she's like, uh-oh, whatever. And she comes into, but I got to give Evil credit once again. No matter how much we think, oh, we know where this is going, however, they will still come up with a way to kind of come up with something like, oh shit, I did not see that happening.
Yep. Well, that's what happens when you have the power of evil on your side, because everybody has a price.
And when you go get Richard Kind, now the fact that Richard Kind is on this show, I mean, somebody was like, well, you forget, well, the fact that they got Richard Kind to be the judge are already kind of, it's like, no, okay, and I know I know a lot of people have said that, I guess. Okay, I'm not going to say you're wrong. That's a little rude. I will point out, as I said in the first episode that he appeared on, he's been a judge in two of the other shows done by Robert and Michelle King. It's not weird for him to show up as a judge on one of their shows. It's been an established thing. This is the third different judge. I'm sorry, that's not true. He played the same judge on both those shows. It's a different character, but it's still a judge. Anyway, I kind of wish it had been the same character. That would have been a great kind of connection. I can't believe they didn't do that, but they just wanted to name him Jeter, I think, just to be smart asses or something. I don't know. But I'm thinking most of our listeners, you've seen Richard Kind in a million things. He's usually,
Right.
generally speaking, he's a comedic actor, usually seen on comedies. He was even in that weird latent, LA talk show thing that John Mulaney did on Netflix a couple months ago. And he was kind of like the announcer for all of them. He's been on everything from, Curb Your Enthusiasm, everywhere, everything, whatever. I could be wrong. I don't think I've ever seen Richard Kind hack someone's head off. Uh,
It's not in my memory bank.
And it's not just that he does that, although him doing that itself and then having the head just slide off like we're watching like some moment out of Game of Thrones or something alone. But also, I found it kind of fascinating that he was very as close as one could get to being very matter of fact about disposing of the head and body.
Yeah, like it's like, did he do
Has he
this
done this
before?
before? Yeah, I was like,
Is that what is that what the blackmail is? Is that the price? Like,
well, he sold his well as we price of one's soul, whatever. It's interesting. Um,
also, I mean, like, he just had the sword there, which, okay, people have weird things in their office. It's fine. It's decor. Uh, but that thing was super sharp, and he
well,
would, he was an expert.
well, I'm going by what he said as being true, part of it at least. Because if everything in the office, if he's taking over for another judge and they hadn't moved out and they left over all the Civil War memorabilia that was there,
Oh, yep, yep.
so
You're right. I have
that
forgotten about that detail that he filled in.
right now, whether or not the tarp that was on the floor would have been there otherwise, that's debatable. I think that was there deliberately to help dispose of things and because this had been planned out. Um, yeah, it's just you don't see it coming, especially because we had seen the judge pretty much ruling on on the side of good throughout this
Yeah,
trial. You know,
yep.
especially his reactions to Leland and to Dr. Bott and everything else. And here we kind of go in the other direction. Um, I don't know why. No one's like, so wait a minute. She went to your chambers and then she just disappeared.
Yeah, she just left.
I'm not going to point out, especially if it's a building with a court, it's a court building, whatever. Hey, you know what else all those hallways and everything has? They have cameras.
Cameras.
So isn't someone going to catch it? You know, we never see her because I know there'll be other doors to his chambers that lead to other, to leave. You don't always have to leave to the
Yeah,
courtroom,
sure.
obviously. But someone's going to realize, hey, you know what? We don't have any proof of. We don't see her ever leaving your
I mean, I
chambers.
don't know. I've never been at a court case this level. We'll have to ask, our fellow podcaster this.
Right.
He
Yeah.
might have more details. But I feel like if you're going into court and you are a witness, I'm pretty sure you have to like sign in and sign out. Like I feel like there's something that's like
Well,
that
you
you were
could.
there
Well,
holding.
they could say that she bolted out of sight, but who knows?
But it just goes back to that camera thing,
Well,
like
but then I don't know. Okay, to defend, because I don't want to keep falling back on that. They might not realize there's a reason to do that until they start thinking about the fact, until enough time passes by where, okay, she didn't just leave, she's missing now.
can't
And that,
find her.
and at that point, someone might want to like go back and see, try to retrace steps. And first we have to see how and when she left his chambers, and then someone might go, "Hey, you know what's not? She never left the chambers."
Well,
Because I'm assuming
let's
in a court in a federal building like that, they're not like, "Oh, we erased those things," within 24
right. I
hours.
feel like
They probably
they're going to stick around.
they would stick around longer.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, bless Leslie's heart because she only was a babysitter for like a demon coordinator and gave birth to the Antichrist and literally said, which is why the line was there, that she knows what he is capable of. But never mind the fact that the judge just took off his robe and there's a tarp on the floor. It's fine. It's just fine. But I do like that the line's there because that was pretty much it right there. You know what he's capable of.
right. So all this means is that Leland essentially is, at least for the time being, because the way Judge phrases it, that well, if you ever do find her, then you can, we can reopen this.
Yeah,
But as of right now, I'm dismissing. I was like,
we're just
wait,
dismissing it.
if you're dismissing the charges, does that mean they can't be brought again? I was like, oh wait, I think they can be brought again because he's not exonerated specifically. It's just we're just throwing the case out kind of a thing. I think that's how it works. Again, if we had Mr. Lawyer Boy here, we could just ask him. Don't care. I care, but I don't care. What I care more about is you know, when he admonishes Leland for
Hmm.
you better keep away from Chris, and Leland's promise is, I promise neither you or your family will ever see me.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Oh, they won't see you. Yeah. That's not really. You're playing with words there.
I mean, the reality is like, yeah, okay, you bought the judge, so you're fine. But
Yeah.
if you hadn't bought the judge and you said something like that, nope, lock him up. He's not leaving.
No, no. So, I mean, I very much enjoy. I mean, the courtroom stuff is great. I mean, again, John Carroll Lynch as Stick is so good. His little Bill Murray from Kingpin kind of comb over flapping around was really kind of fun to watch.
So terrible.
The moment, the fact that you have all these sequences which involve both humor and shock and horror, and it's been fun. Speaking of fun, there's other stuff that in this episode I wanted to touch upon as well. We mentioned some lines that we liked in the episode. I'll tell you a couple that really stuck out to me, and we
I
get
bet we have some of the same.
because one of the things I really enjoyed about this episode is, it's old school. It's the interactions between our main trio, between Ben and Kristen and David. And the ones who can usually throw down the best lines is the guy who's actually the comedian of the three, which is going to be, Ben. And so they're talking about their prospective futures. And I think at this point in the episode, Kristen still believes that I think she hasn't found out yet that it's gone awry. She believes she's going to get this settlement
Right.
from the guy, who had, hired Andy for the mountain climbing and so on. And I went, oh, that's the Tim Matheson character. He's not paying you off. He's in with Leland and all them. That I already knew that there's no way
Right.
that was going to work out. I was just waiting to see how they were going to do it, and then we find out, he just paid it directly to Andy 10 cents on the dollar or whatever. But never mind that, because that's fun. What's funny about that is more about talking what happens with the kids later, because that's great. But Ben here, and he seems very kind of nonchalant about everything. I think she even uses that word, in fact. I think, I think at some point, just don't you have any feelings? And he says, I only have two feelings, disdain and hunger, which is a great line. And because they're talking about the respect, and then he counters, what are you going to do? Adopt more kids? And I was like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. Hey, am I the only am I the only one who kind of when Kristen had that brief little dream moment where her double is sitting at the edge of the bed and turns to whatever? I kind of wanted the double to be in the Catholic schoolgirl outfit that David keeps seeing his demon in.
Yeah,
So
I honestly, I kind of thought for a minute, like, oh man, David's demon that's who that is. See the little forked tongue or something.
I mean, I suppose it could still be, but I just kept thinking, especially because we kept referencing Catholic school and dealing with nuns or whatever, and her
Mm-hmm.
daughter being, wanting to be going to the nunnery and all that kind of stuff. The nunnery, I'm sure they never use that word. So I kept going, oh, it would be kind of funny if she's in the Catholic school girl outfit here. Um, Also, speaking on the subject of doppelgangers, so yeah, you made the reference before. I think maybe in the opening of the podcast. Towards the end of the episode, we get to see Kristen's doppelganger when she goes on the website. And it's some singing, Dutch girl, hippy dippy, trippy, sitting on the curb in Amsterdam somewhere, I think. And you can see Kristen's like clicking and playing it over because there's that content, sweet peace of mind kind of thing I think she's getting from it. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is, the life not led kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely what I picked up on it. Like she was, yeah, the life not led, but then also the piece that her doppelganger was okay and was happy or seemed to be happy.
Right. Which is what
You
we
know.
find out about, like, the other doppelganger from Paul. Is that the one of the ways they were trying to talk him down? Like,
Yep.
well, we found another one. It's like I kept thinking, another guy who looks like Nate Condry. What are the odds of this? Are you sure he didn't? They weren't like triplets somewhere, and they just got separated at birth. I'm just saying because they look
Like duplicity.
they look a little bit too much alike, if you ask me. I mean, it looks like they actually got the same actor. Anyway, anyway,
That could be
I
weird.
did think it was funny. It was the second episode we've seen in the last few weeks where Kristen's going to go on a website or, she's going to do something. But instead of doing it for her, she's like, I'm going to do it David first.
And that is, it's so rude. Because they always show this scene where they go, "Oh, do you want to try this, David?" And David's all like, "No, I don't want to, no."
except last
And
time he did do it. So that was a mistake. Big
yes, it
mistake.
was.
But
And then here
here,
comes Christine, like, "Oh, I gotta find out."
so
Miss Kristen.
when she pops in the picture of David and we get to see David as this, this, tough talking, cocky boxer somewhere. I think he might have a little bit more hair on his head if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I
Or lip balm.
couldn't tell what accent he was going for there. I don't know if he was doing the island thing or maybe it was a little bit of a Brit thing. I wasn't even sure. I didn't feel like going back and listening to it, but it certainly leads to, a very different kind of a dream for Kristen in this episode. And I was like going, "Ooh, this is how are we going to get raunchy here? Are we going?
There's all sorts of panty ripping going on.
Are we going for it, Kings?" And then Ben's doppelganger. Oh, he's a family man. He's like sprawled on the floor with his wife and kids. I think there's some singing going on, and I kept thinking, "Oh, this is the version of Ben that Ben would have liked that because that's the version of Ben that was singing to the chick that he was with."
But see, that's what made me think about that. Was that Ben? Was that Ben singing?
I'm still annoyed they didn't address the whole time traveler thing in this episode. Fuck them. So
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, remember like last week when there was this whole time travel thing, and like your daughter from the future came, like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember this.
no. And we heard some dope on a podcast and system must happen for real. So it was like, no, we're not even going to address it. So it didn't happen. Too bad. Get over it. See, it's all a scam to get $80,000. Now we do. It's interesting. We spend a little bit of, like you said, this episode that goes, it branches into so many little areas for moments here and there. And we do spend a little bit of time with Ben. And we get and it's interesting. Number one, we know he's got this offer that's like 650,000 a year. He can like work on neurogenesis, But then we see him get a call for another offer, and he's kind of like putting the guy off. Doesn't even want to bother with it. And we hear it's going to be for like $950,000.
Oh my God.
And I was like, dude, if you got a loft like that, you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna pay for it. Maybe you better take that, whatever. But it's funny. He has a weird reluctance to it. And he realizes there's just still stuff going on with him. And we finally get the gin. We finally reference the gin again because he calls out to the gin, but gin don't show. And you're wondering
got his metal hat on.
He's still wearing the little tinfoil beanie under his hat here or whatever. Because that's, I'm assuming that's why he's wearing the hat all the time, because he's covering the fact he's wearing that. And because there's never any winds in New York, so his hat would never. Although I kept thinking, should you really be wearing a hat inside all the time like that, man? What are you, Cedric the Entertainer or something? You gotta stop.
It's this cool new look. Why do you think because he does, say like, why are you afraid of success? Why do you think Ben's afraid of success? Is that what he's afraid of?
See, the only thing that confused me about it was the fact that apparently there was another offer that he had already taken, which is still a very high paying blah, blah, blah job. Because my feeling is if they wanted to paint something, because if he's questioning things because of and he's questioning to some degree, he's questioning his own sanity as well
Yes.
because of the situation. He's wearing a tinfoil hat, for God's sakes. He still thinks that, he believes there's a djinn. He's seen the fact he's done things that he has no recollection of doing. And, there's, thing after thing. He's still aware that he got a, laser beam to the head from a particle accelerator thing or collider, whatever the hell it's called. It's acceptable that he would be questioning things and thus question. It's kind of like the way we see the religious characters question their faith. He could be questioning his grounded observance of science, and that's what his background and everything about him has been so rooted in. So he questions himself. So it's almost like a confidence thing. Because
Yeah.
if you can't rely on the things that you've grown to believe in science-wise to be the explanation for things, where you've just seen too many things which go beyond that, how can you confidently proceed in that field, that you've devoted yourself to? Because like the doubts that each of the members of the clergy we've seen on the show have expressed, he's having doubts. And I think that's what's part of it. I mean, the fact that he had accepted one thing might kind of be the fly in the ointment, but even that, there seems to be a certain shakiness to it, or something. I'm not sure. Or maybe the other offer is something that's just something that's a bit more out there, and the other thing is something he feels more secure about because at least it's a bit more grounded in something that he can believe in or something. I'm not sure.
It's
It's interesting.
interesting. Because what we've had from Ben over the years, over the seasons, is that he has his black and white knowledge of science and understanding. He's open to discovering new things because after all, that is science, finding new things. You're always discovering stuff. You're making hypotheses and changing your mind based on the facts that are given to you. So he's always been able to do that. So he could very easily take what he already knows and bend what he knows to accept the new realities that he's facing. But the one thing we do see him always struggle with, or at least in the last 2 seasons, is having any kind of life, family, love. Are you made of that? Can you be that person? And I think that's kind of the very short-lived weird little story we were getting, when he was, first started blacking out, and she was saying, well, you called me and asked if you wanted to pick up some scented candles and and he has no recollection of that. And then he says, I want to be that. That's who I want to be. So it's like he's always got that little struggle, but everything else seems like, Ben kind of knows who Ben is. So now seeing him have that same struggle, switch over to this field that he's always been secure in. But like you said, he's wearing a tinfoil hat and seeing a djinn and, seeing him question that. We've talked about how we feel like Ben's story is going to get rushed probably more than anyone else's in Shortchanged. And I think this is like really standing out as part of that. Because it's like the struggle of who he was just swapped over to this other thing. And I kind of want to figure what that is more.
Yeah, I would say the casualties of the impending not impending, the cancellation. I think the Ben storyline is probably casualty number one. I think it absolutely probably would have been delved into and expanded upon and explored so much more. It feels like they were there early in the season and it kind of got away from them and it kind of got just shelved. And then it was, I think you had mentioned in a previous podcast, was a certain point in the season and it was when the writer's strike had happened and that's when they got the word. And then you can see how storylines start to kind of fold in on themselves a little bit. And it started to become more like an arrow tip. And as we funnel our way to the final episode, I think the Ben stuff is probably the number one thing. I actually think they would have done more because even this is kind of feeling like, oh, well, we're not going to play it up as much as we plan to. I think the whole thing with David and the secret Vatican organization thing is kind of fallen off the tracks.
Where did it go? Where is it now?
I mean, maybe it was supposed to lead to where it did, but that always felt like we kind of rushed to it being kind of the connection to Leland, that whatever. And it was like, oh, okay. But then we never really got into it other than finally revealing a little bit about Leland having, tried to be part of the priesthood or was part of the, whatever the hell it was. But I just, again, we're enjoying it and we totally understand when we've
Yes.
seen that this is not an uncommon thing. Anyone who's watched TV and knows TV well over the last,
Yep.
30, 40 years, there's probably been a season of a show, a final season where you realize, oh, they didn't know or they found out early on this is a final season. And even though there was going to be a lot, this should have been stretched out a lot more and and probably more fulfilling. We're going to rush things because we're trying to get everything done once. Anyone who watched the
Right.
show, the one I usually go with is if you watch we talk about all the different HBO shows over the years, and everyone goes, Sopranos, The Wire, Game of Thrones,
Hmm.
all those shows. I always remember the show Rome, and Rome is really good. And then, but Rome's final season, I think Rome only had three. I want to say it only had 3 seasons. I think it was three, not four. If I'm wrong, I don't have it in front of me. But what I do distinctly remember is the final season felt crazy rushed. It was like,
Right.
it was just going from thing to thing to thing. It was like they were just speeding through history. It was like before someone was reading a story to me, the history
Yeah.
of the world. And this one, we're just kind of like speeding through the pages.
Cliff note.
Oh, here's there's Cleopatra. Oh, here's Caesar. Anton. All right, over. Bye bye.
Yeah.
And we've seen what other shows you kind of got that. Oh
Hell
yeah,
on Wheels, or yeah, is it? Yeah, Hell on Wheels. That's a great example of that too. Like that last season was just, you can tell they got the axe and they just try to
yeah,
get it all in.
right. I didn't mind as much with Hell on Wheels because I felt it needed. I think and I really enjoyed Hell on Wheels. I mean, I think we used to talk about that on the podcast every once in a while, me and Dan way back in the day. But sometimes I was like, I think it needs a little kick in the ass just to get going a
Little
little
bit,
bit.
little
Because,
bit.
again, don't mind it so much because it had the whole Western kind of feel to it. And, I'm a fan of the laconic, take your time kind of Western as much as anybody. But at a certain point, it's like, we need to get this in gear. We're
Let's
lollygagging
get it
with
going.
the Swedish, Dutch, whatever the fuck he is character. Like, we're spending too much time. Like, let's get to the fucking point here. Anyway,
I
um,
think that given all that they have to try to push into the end of one season, it's not like they even got a heads up before they even started filming a full season.
mhm.
Given all the challenges that they have to face to make all of these loose ends come together, the fact that they remembered to, tie up the loose end of the $800,000 and they're doing what they can. I'm
Right.
not harboring any ill
Oh
will
yeah.
or angst about it, but it is worth acknowledging. We all have got to see that Ben's story was going to get a lot fuller than what
Yeah,
we're going to end with.
it's probably the thing I'm most kind of irked about as far as beyond just not getting another season of the show. Is like, oh, I kind of would have liked more Ben stuff. Because I was really curious where they were going to go. I want to see where they were going with this whole Jin thing. Because apparently, he's
Yes.
got a Jin, he's there, and then okay, and what? Uh, we haven't gotten back. We haven't gotten anything else with it. Even when he was, haunted by other things before, at least there was a bit more to it. Although I don't remember how that got resolved either, quite frankly. Um, but this one, it's a little frustrating. So the other things that happened that were worthy of note, I do like. Well,
We
you know
got to
what?
talk about the girls.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go to first. Girls, and then the little mini wrap ups for each of the characters, which gets us to the end of the episode as well. Okay, those girls. Hello, girls.
The only fan. But feet, just feet.
Well, I like that first. Their ideas are somewhat, maybe a little impractical. There's the selling their shoes to a classmate. They think maybe a little baby Timmy could be in baby food commercials. Then they start getting a bit more modern. They make a reference to the GoFundMe thing, which we come back to later. But it's the OnlyFans thing. First of all, gotta love the fact that they all seem to know what OnlyFans is, which should be the first thing that disturbs should disturb her a lot.
Well, I love that she says, what
Kind
kind
of
of monster
monster
raised
raised
you?
you.
That's the
Um,
best self-realization this character has ever had in the entire series.
I mean, it's like you were raised by like a murderer or something. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
Did I did I do that? But
I did not see an Urkel reference getting dropped.
yeah. And this is from someone
Oh,
who's literally never seen one episode of that show.
it's okay. It's all right. You got the most important part.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
And then later on, it turns out they have done the GoFundMe, and I guess they went. Now, did they go and did they now tell me this? Did they go and get an older picture of her when she was suffering with the heart condition, or did they make her up to look that way for? Oh
Made her up to
man,
look.
I kind of want it to be that because that makes me love the girls even more. It was so funny because when Kristen first gets home and sees the first flower thing, and she thinks she got something from the lawyer because he thought they had done so well in court, and she first reads the card, and I'm like going, oh, like I was as confused as she was until she went into it. Then I was like, oh, they did the GoFundMe. Oh man. Speaking as someone who's actually thought about that himself, it's like
Right.
if I,
How would we do this?
I'm really in a bad money. I'm like super been in a bad financial situation for a while now. Can I make up some lie about the kitty cats? Because
Like, what could I come up with?
people won't give
Like,
me money, but these cats got to
people like kids.
some people
They
like
like kittens and puppies.
these cats got to go see a vet one of these days. That's they're not springing for it. But yeah, her reaction to the GoFundMe and like, we don't do this.
Oh my
We
gosh.
No, you said we can light it. It's like, no, oh, I'm sorry. Don't, I like, she said we can't light it. It's like, who said, like, I'm sorry. Mom said we can't no, we can only light at corporations. No, that's not what, so good.
Oh, that's
Well, they're not, now, they're not giving, I will get really like, don't be giving that money back, man. You take that money.
yeah,
You
you
take,
need that money. You
take
gotta.
that.
You gotta take it.
How you gonna take? Because if you say if you give it back, you're gonna have to say why. And if you say why,
Yeah.
people can have a problem with you and your kids. And if
Yep.
you lie, well, didn't you just tell them not to lie? So catch 22. Take it down. So nothing else comes through, but you're gonna have to take your money. So, oh, poor you got 10,000. But she
She
said,
was gonna go donate it. She'll take the money and she's gonna
right,
go
right.
donate it to David's parish.
Well, I don't know about the parish because it's like, I don't think it's going to matter.
She'll
But
just give it to Sister Andrea to do something because she's the smartest one in the group.
so, but this is where she has the moment of speaking of religious things of enlightenment, where we rely on our talents, and then she realizes it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm a psychologist. I could like
Mm.
go back to like being what I am.
I could do the same thing I'm doing, but at a desk.
I could, see patients who, that they might think there's a demon in them, but, I bet most of them won't. They'll just be dealing with their own demons and such. And maybe I'll finally use that garage thing that I've got set up as an office. And I keep going, well, and I just said the other day, did they ever use that as well? I think maybe once, or were they always just cleaning it up? I don't know what's going on. And when she has Boggs over to get him to agree to referrals, and he's about to go on a big Comic-Con tour or whatever, and part of me is like, oh gosh, I hope he's able to get those referrals in before he dies.
Because he doesn't have long for the world. I like how she's tearing all of the crap off the walls and then throwing it in the same Andy's shit box.
Oh, was it the same? I didn't notice
She's
that.
taking off all the ice pick stuff.
I saw I saw her taking the stuff down. I didn't realize she was throwing it in the same box. I didn't remember that. I was too busy paying attention to the train going by and thinking, oh, is that the demon train?
Sure is. George is up there just chilling.
So we have that, and we also another little thread that we didn't get into was, it's funny that David, as priests do in the confessional, when he tells Sister Andrea to do her 10 Hail Marys
Yeah.
and at contrition, he does a little Hail Mary of his own where he goes to meet with this little
Oh,
archdiocese tribunal. It looks almost set up like a tribunal the way they're high above him, like they're some like the Supreme Court of the church kind of a thing. And he discovered this thing. How he figured this out is amazing to me. I mean, it's like, David, I already think I'm dumb, but you are way smarter than me because I never would have thought of air rights, about the church for, a building or in the vicinity, kind of blah, blah, blah,
right.
to this company. I think it's like a delivery service or something called Congo Run, which I kept thinking, was that a company they came up with in the Good Wife? It really feels like it was. I had to go back and check or something. And the leader of this council, who was like, "Oh, hey, that actor. That's the guy from who was in CSI and all that stuff. I remember you. You've been around for a long. You were actually in the season of Wise Guy. No one's knows what I'm talking about." It's like, "Oh yeah, so we looked at your proposal with great interest. In fact, we contacted them ourselves. And they totally screwed up. They screwed David over. Like, yeah, we took your idea and we decided to sell the whole church."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you, do you think that this is just literally like a legit company that's just that he's mentioning? Or do you think that this is Leland run?
Well, they're closing this thing anyway, so that's what I find interesting about this whole thing about the whole 2 week thing. Like, well, they were gone in 2 weeks anyway. This is just saying, yeah, so I don't know if they would even bother. It could be. It certainly could be.
It just feels like something that Leland would just get a kick out of, like he wouldn't need to do, but like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this
I guess
church.
it's
I'm
possible.
gonna buy this parish that kicked me out of their special club.
I that does make a lot of sense. I just feel at the time when this is happening, Leland was maybe a little more occupied with other things to be doing this. So I don't know if he could have been doing that, but it's as conceivable as anything else. But yeah, we could say. But all this leads to the ending of the episode where you have, David. He tried and he tried. He
Oh,
tried,
I loved this ending so much.
and Sister Andrew's at the piano, and yeah, and it's a love.
Playing some holy tunes
It's
on
a
the piano.
no, but it's a nice moment at
It
the end of
really
the
is.
episode for these two, and who have I don't know if they have a bond exactly, but they sort of do. She's uh, not his confidant, but she's the one who's been more aware of the real things he's been dealing with and seeing than anyone else has.
I kind of feel like she's his mentor without saying she's his
And
mentor.
and she certainly is more prone to believe the kind of stuff that he's been dealing with more so than anyone else would who's not
Hmm.
already a member of the church. But yeah, I mean, you can I can leave it to you to talk about because I don't know how articulate I'll be about it right now. My mouth is a little full of cotton and marbles, I think. But
I just
I know we got the heavenly chords. I
the
know that.
heavenly chords. I I love the moment of sitting down on the piano bench together. Traditionally, whenever a conversation's going to happen on a piano bench, it's going to mean something. Just the way it goes. I don't write the rules. That's just what they are. But these two, especially being able to kind of lean on each other in this episode, where David has had to lean on Andrea a few times. But now Sister Andrea gets to thank him for having that moment and to remember it, the idea of playing those heavenly chords, and she takes his hand. It's not just that she plays it, is that she takes his hand and they play it together. And then the room fills with that light. And I just love how she reminds him, like, he's here right now. He's everywhere. It was such a simple and effective effect to reach the viewers in a way that white light is spreading out into the living rooms or whatever of the people who are watching. Just as a reminder that, like, to people who question it, especially in an episode that's so daunting with grief and suicide, especially
Right.
the idea of that, like, no, this light can still reach you. It's everywhere. um it was meaningful for the characters, but I think when they wrote it, they were really trying to reach out to their viewers more than tell their character story. And it worked. But it was really moving.
Oh, so well said. I'm glad I let you say it, 'cause I would have been like, I like that the big glowing
I liked the glowing
square,
light.
square, it gets smaller as we pull away. It's like the light at the end. Look, there is a light at the end of a tunnel or something. I don't know what to refer to it as. I am not good. It is late. I am tired and I have 8,000 other things to do.
This is the end of my brain.
I've reached, brain stops here.
We're at capacity. But great episode. Lots of
Yeah.
little things. They did what they can to tie some knots from some loose ends, and yeah, the court stuff was great. Andrea stuff, great. I don't have any complaints. It was
Yeah,
great.
no complaints.
Great.
No complaints about the episode. I think everything worked together well, and considering it was such a juggling act with so many different character beats and little storylines that are connecting from that have been out there for a while, and things just from this specific episode. And they're doing. There's a lot of work to be done because it is. We are closing in on the end of the season and the end of the series altogether, apparently. And I keep saying that because I keep thinking we're going to hear, yeah, Netflix is going to give them 10
Let's go
episodes.
for it. Let's get a Ben spinoff. Come on.
Because what's kind of frustrating about it is that there's so much of me that thinks that because even though they got the word that they were being canceled and they're trying to write things a certain way as we're watching, I also at the same time believe that we're going to maintain a certain level of confidence that, hey, someone's going to pick us up.
Right.
The Netflix thing just makes too much goddamn sense for them not to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what bothers me about that is even though they're writing like they're going to end it, I still wonder if they would really end it the way they want to end it, when you're still holding out hope you might get another season somewhere. True. I mean, I'll be very obvious here. If you think there's even a decent possibility you'll get picked up somewhere else, then, for example, you're not going to kill the Leland character because you're not going to lose the Michael Emerson character if you get another season. But if you are definitely absolutely ending, you kind of, unless you want evil to win, that would be kind of an interesting direction to go in, I guess, if they want to go that way. But I'm going to go on the assumption that's not where they're going to go.
Well, it seems as in the original timeline, it is.
The original timeline. But
we could only get back to that.
Okay, we're not doing Deadpool and Wolverine here. Stop it. Stop with timelines. We're not doing that. Yeah, so I mean that's probably the one thing I think is unfortunate about this, other than the fact that certain storylines have kind of had to be shelved as a result. But it is what it is. It's going to happen,
right?
But so I still hold out some weird sort of hope that something could happen. I haven't looked up to see if anyone like from any of these specific streamers and Netflix in particular has ever said, no, we'll tell you right now we're not going to do it. It's like, really? So you'll give us 800 other things, but whatever. But I think if there's one good thing about all this, we've been getting a very solid and strong string of episodes that, between the continuing storylines and just giving everyone really nice moments to shine. And we've only got 2 left, man. Only 2 left.
That's crazy. We're almost there.
I'm so sad. So sad.
Almost there. These are some really great characters. And I just, there's 1,000,001 great shows, good characters, but these 3, 4, 5, I don't know. They hold something a little bit higher than some of the others.
Oh, I just thought of an opportunity they should have done. They should have, when they wanted to have a doppelganger. I know they thought they were being cute and funny and fun with the doppelganger of David being some blah, blah, blah boxer or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really, oh man, they should have had his doppelganger be Leland Bishop, because that was the character he played on The Good Wife for many episodes. That was a lot of us. That was the first time we ever saw him. We were like, "Oh, okay." Then here's this guy. It was like this is way before Luke Cage, people. Way before Luke Cage. Come on. You only have a couple episodes. Why not say they're part of the same universe? Come on. You know you want to.
That would be pretty excellent.
You know you want to. Anyway, what I want to do right now is say if you like this podcast, you'll enjoy hanging out on our Facebook page as well. It's a serious TV drama podcast page. Like the page and join the conversation about shows like Evil, like The Umbrella Academy, which I have not started yet because I don't know when I'm going to, but I will, Jamie. I swear. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And other shows. But it would be nice to get some conversations going on there, or not. I don't care. I shouldn't say that. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle there is at STVD Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram. We're just Serious TV Drama, all is one word. And you can follow us on most podcast platforms. And if you happen to be on one where you can rate and review us, feel free to do so. If you ever want to comment on anything we say on the podcast, be it on Facebook, a few times over the years, people have actually commented on the podbean.com page, which it is actually set up for that, even though I always forget about it. I mean, the last time I think someone commented was like 4 or 5 years ago, but you can comment there if you like too. Whatever. Comment everywhere. You can just, you can write it on a wall and I'll walk by and I'll see it like, oh, nice comment. I'm tired. Jamie, I need to stop talking. I might just stop talking for the rest of the podcast. Like you just say
Scott's working on a working man schedule these days, so he's wearing thin at the end of the night and the end of the week. But we'll be back next week. Talk to you next week and sometime after we watch the next episode of Evil, which is titled, I don't have it, Scott. What's the title?
They've been really kind of
are they holding this one close to their chest?
I'm gonna take, you know what? That's a good idea. I'm gonna look right now. I'm gonna tap EVIL. What did I just say?
This is the part where you turn into a robot.
Eva E-L. Not sure where that came from. All right. The next title is episode 413. No, we don't. There's no title for the next episode. Oh,
right.
This one wasn't considered a top-rated one compared to the previous two. Wonder why people didn't like this one as much. I'm surprised. People stupid. Anyway.
It's because people dumb. That's all.
Or maybe, the previous two were pretty, crazy strong episodes, so maybe that's it. But I think...
You're not lying. That's the truth.
Anyway, as you said, Jamie, thank you for rescuing me there, and thank you for being here for the podcast. You, for all my rambly jibber-jabber, you at least bring the goods, unlike me. So thank you for being here.
No problem. I'll be back next week.
All right. As will I. And also, at some point, when we both, because I haven't even asked you, I'll just ask right now. Did you watch it yet? Umbrella Academy? You didn't watch it yet, right?
I am on episode 4.
Wow. Okay. So you're already more than halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a little mini marathon yesterday.
Mini marathon. Oh, because you probably would have been, because normally you would have been recording some podcasts yesterday, but I
would have. But things got busy. Life got busy.
Tired, exhausted, sad boy. I just got home. I can't even watch it. It's raining and I can't watch my game. And I'm just want to stare at my eyelids. That's all.
Just look sadly out the window with the kitty cats.
Right. So other than the next Evil pod, at some point in the next week or two, hopefully we will figure out when we can do the Umbrella Academy one.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Unless it turns out the season sucks. Oh, it doesn't matter because if it's bad, I'll enjoy podcasting about it either way. So it works.
We'll just bat it around a little bit. That's what we do. It's okay. We're not friends with these people. They don't pay our bills. We can say what we want.
They're never gonna listen to this. Not like your fancy survive a podcast where actual people from the show actually comment on your stuff and make you feel all important. No.
Only in Australia, buddy.
No. We got a couple likes on a couple tweets from Rhea Seahorn 5 years ago, and I was living off of that forever. She probably
as you should. That's got a long lifespan, so just keep living on it.
No, it needed to be a comment. I don't think she actually commented. Or maybe did she comment on? No, it was just likes. Yeah. All right, I did it again. Blah blah blah. why these podcasts take way too long, and I still have actual work to do. Oh my God, it's 12:20. All right. Again, thank you, Jamie, for being here. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week. Arrivederci. I don't know.
Good night, everybody.